Hello and welcome to the DSR Daily. I'm David Rothkopf, and I am joined, as I am almost every day, by Riley Fessler. How are you doing, Riley?
Not too bad.
It's a beautiful day here in Washington, D.C., and by Minna Stein. How are you doing, Minna?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
Well, a sunny day. It's May. It's May 1st. There was probably a maypole right outside your house there, Minna, right? Ready to dance around the maypole?
I do every May 1st.
Exactly. Riley does too. We'll share video of that later. Minna, what's our top story for today?
A Senate resolution to overturn President Trump's sweeping Liberation Day tariffs narrowly failed in a 49-49 vote, with 3 Republicans joining Democrats, but falling short due to key absences. Despite the resolution being non-binding and likely dead in the House, it signaled bipartisan concern over the economic impact of the tariffs, which critics like Senator Rand Paul argued act as a tax on American families. Trump's administration defended the tariffs amid ongoing trade talks, while GOP leadership tried to downplay the vote's significance and urged patience for potential deals.
Yeah, right. Sure. GOP leadership. GOP leadership is like an oxymoron at this point. I mean, these guys are just a bunch of spineless paramecia that cluster around the president and sort of live off of him. Until, by the way, when they ditch him. And this is going to happen, pretty fast because, of course, it's not just critics who call tariffs a tax. Tariffs are a tax, and people are paying the tax. And whether Amazon shows the tax and the prices or not, people aren't dumb. If they were paying $25 or $2,500 for something last month, and all of a sudden they're paying $3,100 or $3,200 or 31 or 32, they'll know what's going on here. And, they're not going to be happy about it. And you're starting to see some Republicans speak out about it. And there are no deals that, are big wins for America. There are no deals right now, but the deals are going to all be, special interests, capitulation, things that benefit Trump, things that do not achieve the overall goals of driving manufacturing back to the United States, ushering in a new golden age. And that's why I kind of liked it where Minna in the beginning of that story used the term Liberation Day, as it is now being used by everybody, as kind of ironic. It's kind of like, yeah, Liberation Day. Right, dude. No liberation. This was a burden. It is a fiasco. It's one of, actually, let's be clear, probably one of the biggest fiascos by a new president ever. We've seen big fiascos. For example, the last time Trump started out, he said, I'm going to start with a Muslim ban, which caused riots at airports and chaos and was rejected by the courts. But this is much, much bigger, touches many, many more people, and they deserve some kind of award for biggest screw up by a president in his first 100 days. Riley.
During an interview, President Trump falsely claimed that Kilargo Garcia had MS-13 tattooed on his knuckles, referencing a photoshopped image used in prior social media posts. Despite being corrected by journalist Terry Moran?
Yes. Terry Moran.
Despite being corrected by
not Terry Moran, but keep going.
Let me take that again. Despite being corrected by journalist Terry Moran, Trump insisted the gang-related lettering was real, using it to justify Garcia's deportation. In reality, Garcia has not been charged with gang affiliation, and courts have found the evidence against him to be unsubstantiated and even misleading. The administration's focus on the tattoos and public messaging appears to be part of their broader strategy to influence opinion amid legal scrutiny over its immigration actions.
Influence opinion. Oh, that's so gentle. It's part of their broader strategy to spread lies to support their inhumane policies of stripping people of their fundamental rights. But, this is one where the journalist challenged him a little, and Trump's response to it was, kind of classic Trump, like, hey, I'm giving you the big break of your life here with this interview. Why are you being so mean? But it's well established that what the president was saying was a lie. Whether he knows it's a lie or not, I don't know. Somebody knows it's a lie, but Trump lives kind of cluelessly in a world of people kissing his ass, as we will talk about in a moment. Mina?
The U.S. and Ukraine finalized a deal granting the U.S. priority access to Ukraine's natural resources, aiming to bolster American investment and strengthen President Trump's support for Ukraine in ceasefire negotiations with Russia. The agreement includes the creation of a U.S.-controlled reconstruction fund, giving Washington first claim on profits and reinforcing its long-term commitment to Ukraine's recovery and sovereignty. The deal, reached amid Trump's push for foreign policy wins, is also intended to encourage peace talks while addressing U.S. frustrations over stalled progress.
Yeah, well, Trump always sees things as like, a deal, and he doesn't understand who benefits and who loses. He doesn't know that the United States benefits if Ukraine uses our aid to defeat Russia, because it makes the world safer and also because it reduces the threat from the Russian military. But he doesn't quite get that. He also doesn't get, by the way, that the U.S. aid that goes to Ukraine to buy things like U.S. military equipment actually goes to the U.S., right? Like if they're buying a bunch of U.S. missiles, what we're doing is essentially providing somebody with the money to buy those missiles. And so U.S. companies benefit from that. Ukraine doesn't actually hold on to the money. And when he was talking about this yesterday, he, used his usual lies. He said the U.S. gave over $350 billion. Not true. That's almost over twice as much as we've done. They said that Europe gave $100 billion. Not true. Europe gave almost 3 times that much. Europe has given twice as much as we have. They said that Europe's money was all secured. What does he think this is? A mortgage, a real estate loan? It's just not true. He was talking about how Europe has sort of backed its funding by holding on to Russian assets. It'd be very interesting to see how Trump follows through with that kind of thing here. The Russians clearly do not like it. We also don't know for sure how many or what the size of the deposits of rare earth metals are in Ukraine. The president's like, good, we're going to get rare earth metals, but we're not sure how many are in Ukraine. That's an unestablished fact. The one thing that the president said during all of this that I thought was positive and constructive was that having the U.S. there working on these things might be seen as a disincentive to Russians to attack those areas. It's narrow, it's small, and as Mina said, that the deal provides sort of some kind of strengthening of the U.S.-Ukraine relationship, and so there is some good in it, but it's being presented in the context of a lot of lies, and how it ultimately plays out is a big question mark. It's also not as important as the bigger issue of can the war be settled, and can it be settled in a way that is in the U.S. interests, in the interests of our allies, and consistent with the demands of the Ukrainian people, because after all, it's their country that was attacked. Riley.
The U.S. Supreme Court's conservative majority signaled support for allowing the nation's first taxpayer-funded religious charter school in Oklahoma, challenging constitutional bans on government-sponsored religious education. The case centers on St. Isidore of Seville Catholic Virtual School, whose backers argue that excluding it from charter school funding constitutes religious discrimination. Liberal justices warned that charter schools are public institutions and must remain secular, while conservatives viewed them as private entities participating in a state program.
Yeah, horrifying. And again, welcome to the slippery slope with this court. once they open, get their foot in the door on this, there will be more things, more funding for religious activities, more introduction of religion into government-sponsored realm, and more erosion of the fundamental constitutional principle of the separation of church and state. It makes a lot of us queasy to see this happen. It hasn't happened yet. They still have to write the decision. But once it does, expect more of the same. Minute.
At a cabinet meeting celebrating the 100th day of President Trump's second term, top officials praised his leadership in glowing terms, citing accomplishments like bringing home 47 wrongfully detained Americans and taking aggressive action on national and economic issues. EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin, a military veteran, declared, quote, "I just want to say thank you, as a veteran of our military, for assembling what is the greatest national security team that I have ever seen in my 27 years associated with the United States Army." The highly orchestrated display of loyalty drew criticism even from conservative circles, with some comparing it to an authoritarian-style tributes amid growing concerns over economic instability and mishandled military information.
Economic instability? What about the mental instability of the president and the mental weakness of the people around him? I mean, it was truly North Korean. In fact, I suspect Kim Jong-un was watching it going, wait a minute, I want to get this kind of treatment at these meetings. I want people to be, kissing my ass publicly, humiliating themselves, saying insanely over-the-top things as statements of loyalty. It should nauseate every American who, A, believes in the principle that the president of the United States is not a king, is not above us, but is in fact a servant of the people and is just one of us. That's the whole idea behind this country. And all of this behavior normalizes this, faux kingship that Donald Trump is seeking. It was comically bad. Of course, it was also interrupted by, Trump making a bunch of crazy statements and members of his cabinet making statements. Marco Rubio saying, I would never give vital information to a judge, even though he's a lawyer and an officer of the court and ought to know better and realize, that in our system, the courts do have equal standing on a whole host of these issues. And there was case after case after case of this. But this is the norm under Trump. And I think we have to look at it, maybe smile a bit because it's ridiculous. And particularly the Zeldin statement. I mean, oh my God, Pete Hegseth leading the best national security team ever, Mike Waltz, those guys, the Signalgate people, Tulsi Gabbard. Are you kidding me? But, it is an insult to our military. And I got to tell you, by the way, I had a meeting earlier this week with somebody who spends every day in the Pentagon working at a very high level. The level of resentment of this clown show by career military, many of whom are Republicans, many of whom are nonpartisan, is off the charts. It's never been this high. The distrust, the contempt for unprofessionalism, the contempt for the personal agendas being advanced here, and the ridiculousness of people like Pete Hegseth is huge, and it's going to be a problem. It's going to get worse because at some point in the not too distant future, one of the things we're going to see is Trump saying we need to, put troops against these protesters in some American city. That was a red line the last time around. We'll see how it goes this time around. Anyway, this is the path of authoritarianism. It's marked by small steps, and among the small steps, of course, is what we're talking about here, which is the the deification of a president who demands it. I mean, it's also, let's just, one last point. A decent human being president would say, stop, don't do that. Don't do that. Let's focus on the meeting. He has no humility. He has no shame. He is our shame. Anyway, it's May 1st. There were some stories there that weren't entirely bad. It's a sunny day. Things are going to get better someday, maybe in geological time, but sooner or later. And when it happens, we'll be here to share that with you. Until then, thank you, Minna. Thank you, Riley. Thank you, everybody, for joining us here on the DSR Daily. And join us on our other shows that occur each and every day. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.